episode 9 of Vixen, a Black beauty and pop culture podcast. If you enjoy what you hear today, please leave a review anywhere you listen to podcasts. Today's episode is part 1 of our Black Beauty Pageant series, starting off with Miss Black America. Now, let's start the show. Hey y'all, welcome back to an all new episode of Vixen at Night. I know y'all listen to the show whenever y'all listen to it, so it may not even be night when y'all hear this, but right now it is storming down in Atlanta, so if you guys hear some thunder and stuff in my background, I'm sorry, the sky is really showing out right now, so just thought I'd let y'all know, quick disclaimer. But anyway, let's talk about today's episode. Before we get into it, this episode was going to be just like a conglomerate of just Black beauty pageant history. We're going to talk about how they started off. We were going to discuss some lesser known pageants, some smaller pageants, and then talk about how pageants have evolved since then, right? But as I did research on the Miss Black America pageant specifically, I was like blown away just by everything that has to do with this pageant. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give Miss Black America its own episode, and I'm going to make this a 2-part, possibly 3-part, but we'll get to that. I'm going to make it a 2-part series. So we will talk about another Black beauty pageant next week. I'm not going to give it away, but I'm sure some of you guys already know what it is. So we'll talk about another pageant next week. And then as for a possible 3rd episode, if we do end up doing a 3rd episode, it won't be this season. It'll be in the next one. But I think I do still want to talk about those lesser known pageants, and I want to just talk about like the history of Black beauty pageants as well. So if you guys enjoy this series after next week's episode, just let me know if you want that potential 3rd episode, and I can make sure that that's in next season. So y'all let me know. And also, because this is going to be a 2-part series, that means there's going to be 11 episodes in this season instead of 10, which is so exciting. So, of course, this week you'll get this episode. Next week you'll get part 2, and then you'll get the film review finale the week after that, which is so exciting. I hope that you guys really like the topic, the film topic that I picked out for this finale. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure you do. I don't know what day the poll is going to go live. For those of you who are new here, every finale, we choose like just a film topic or a type of film, and I create a poll based on those films, and I post it to my Instagram stories. You guys vote. They're a lot of fun, and then I get to read you guys' opinions live on the show. So definitely make sure you follow on Instagram so you can participate in the poll for this season's film review finale, and I'm excited that there's going to be an additional episode instead of just 10. So I'm going to stop rambling and get straight into the episode. Okay, so let's transport ourselves to the mid-1960s, y'all. So you can already imagine what was going on at this time. We're in a time of civil unrest. We're in the middle of the civil rights movement. A ton of discriminatory issues and practices were being raised. People started asking questions and just getting answers for themselves, if you know what I mean. And one of these issues that was raised was the unfair treatment of Black women in the world of beauty pageants. So at this time, there were a ton of smaller pageants that catered to Black women. A lot of these were held at HBCUs, event spaces like ballrooms, county fairs. They would be specifically for sororities or specifically for certain academic departments, those kinds of things. So some of these were called Miss Fine Brown Frame. I love that name. Miss Tan America, and many more. These often fed into larger pageants such as Miss UNCF, as in the United Negro College Fund. And what I mean by fed in is, okay, let's say you won Miss Fine Brown Frame 1925, right? You could then compete in Miss UNCF 1925. So you would kind of move into a larger pageant once you had won a smaller one. And I believe that's how the pageant works. The pageant world, still works to this day, from watching like Toddlers in Tears, y'all. But I assume, if I'm wrong, correct me. Do y'all still like feed into larger pageants? Let me know, pageant girls. So yeah, I mean, there was definitely a Black pageant community, but it was on a way smaller scale than the white one. The larger scale pageants were very racist. We are looking at you, Miss America, specifically. So let me tell y'all a little bit about the rules for Miss America. In 1940, they got rid of what was called Rule 7. And this rule said, and this is a quote, that contestants had to be of good health and of the white race, end quote. So they had a ton of rules that were just like, what? Like, y'all would be shocked reading a lot of them, but this was the one that specifically excluded Black women. Even though they got rid of this rule in 1940, there would not be a Black contestant in Miss America until Cheryl Brown in 1971. A Black contestant didn't make it to the top 5 until nearly 10 years after that with Lincola Sullivan. And then there was no Black winner until Vanessa Williams won in 1984. So that's like damn near 40 years after they got rid of that rule. So as you can see, Miss America was still very much a whites-only pageant well into the 1960s. J. Morris Anderson, a 32-year-old businessman from Philly, had 2 daughters who often expressed that they would love to be in pageants, and they were obsessed with the Miss America competition. So whenever their father would ask them, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? They would be like, I want to be Miss America. So, you know, they were very, very into the pageant world from watching Miss America on TV. As any parent would feel, Jay was very upset that his daughters were so interested in a space where they were virtually unwanted. So he decided to do something about it. Here's a condensed quote from Jay from a 2018 interview with USA Today. I wanted to give them something to look forward to that wasn't fantasy or a lie. We wanted to change that particular aspect of our culture, end quote. So Jay comes up with the idea of a Miss Black America competition, which would be a direct response to Miss America. He went to Black modeling agencies to try to recruit contestants. He went to banks to try to get loans. He had virtually no luck until he teamed up with the NAACP for some power. He connected with some local pageant experts in Philly, and he brought along Brenda Cozart, a beauty consultant, and then the rest was history from there. Now that Jay had a dream team in place, it was time to plan the event and add some structure. So they decided to hold the Miss Black America pageant on the same day as the Miss America pageant, y'all. So they knew that Miss America was going to be held at the Convention Center in Atlantic City that year, so they made sure to book the ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton 4 blocks away. In an interview with the New York Times in 1968, NAACP member Philip H. Savage, who was a huge supporter of Miss Black America, said, "We wanted to be in Atlantic City at the same time that the hypocritical Miss America contest is being held." They also decided that the Miss Black America pageant would be held directly after Miss America, in hopes that news reporters would come over to the Ritz after leaving the convention center for the night. So basically they were like, okay, when theirs ends, we're going to have our start right then and there. They didn't want it happening at the same time, if y'all catch the drift. They wanted it to be directly after. Little did they know, a group of activists were planning on having this really big protest on the boardwalk that same day. So there was just a lot going on in Atlantic City this day. Their goal was to fight against beauty standards and the oppression of women. This protest was organized by feminist Carol Hanish, I believe is how to pronounce her last name. Sorry if I'm not. And her group, the New York Radical Women in Red Stockings. So there were also some Black women involved in this protest too. Like a lot of news articles you'll see about it, they don't get mentioned, but a lot of them did play a part in this protest, such as Bonnie Allen and Florence Kennedy with her media workshop organization. So Florence created this group to fight for African American representation in the media, as well as to get rid of negative representation. But y'all, even though there were some Black women, I had to mention that. I had to make sure y'all knew there were Black women involved in this protest, but it was mainly a white woman thing, y'all. It was mainly a white woman thing. When I read about this, it reminded me a lot of like, what did they call it when all those women went to DC with the pink pussy hats? I call it the pink pussy movement. I don't know what that's called. But it was like very much like a performative white woman thing. Like they were trying to burn bras and rip up girdles and just things like that. I'm not saying like they didn't have a valid cause, because I do think a lot of people find pageantry oppressive, and I think there are valid points there. We'll talk more about that later, but it was kind of performative, if you get what I'm saying. But I don't want to erase the Black women that did play a part in that protest. So let's get back to the pageant. The first annual Miss Black America competition was held on September 8th, 1968 at midnight. So y'all see what they did there? Let's say Miss America probably ended at like 10, 11. You could just walk right over to the Ritz. That year's first place winner would get a 1-week vacation to Puerto Rico, a trophy, and a modeling contract. There were contestants from all over the country, many of them sporting natural hairstyles, nothing like Miss America, like the polar opposite. A lot of people say they felt really empowered seeing so many women wearing their natural hair in one room. There was an evening gown segment, a swimsuit segment, a talent segment, and a Q&A session. And then they would have like the finale with the evening gowns, all the fun things that people love about pageants, right? 19-year-old Sandra Williams and her fro stole the stage with her performance of a traditional African dance, the Fiji, during the talent portion. She then wowed the guests during the evening portion when she revealed that she made her gown herself. It was a gorgeous gown. And she made the audience laugh, and the men booed, of course, during the Q&A session when she said that men and women should split the housework evenly because, and I quote, this is what she said, the male is getting awfully lazy. Who was talking like this in 1968? Like, shout out to Sandra. So Sandra was a student at Maryland State College, now known as the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and she was originally from a middle-class family in Philly. Sandra was the perfect contestant because she was already an activist of some sorts, like in her own way. Although nearly everyone at Maryland State was Black, students still faced racism while they were in town. One of the local restaurants banned Black students from eating inside. Sandra helped organize a group called the Black Awareness Movement, and basically what they did is they started like a silent protest of all of the white businesses in the area. So I don't know if you guys have ever been to a college town which is mainly white, but there's a lot of like Black students at the school. I actually had an experience like that for a short period. But those colleges in those small towns, the colleges really fund the entire city. Like like without the college, the city would be in shambles. You know what I mean? So when these students decided to not shop these businesses, not patronize these white businesses, they saw some change real quick. That restaurant in particular began integrating itself shortly after this happened. So Sandra was an activist in her own right. Nearing the wee hours of the morning, Sandra Williams was crowned Miss Black America 1969, with Teresa Clater coming in as first runner-up and Linda Johnson as the second runner-up. Here's a condensed quote from Sandra to the New York Times about her win. Miss America does not represent us because there has never been a Black girl in the pageant. With my title, I can show Black women that they too are beautiful, even though they do have large noses and thick lips, end quote. So that was the inaugural pageant, y'all. So let's talk about how the pageant progressed throughout the 80s and the 90s. In the pageant's second year, when Gloria O. Smith won, Miss Black America moved on up, y'all. Moved on up, okay? They took it from the Ritz Ballroom to Madison Square Garden. So this was huge. This was just a really big year for them. Stevie Wonder performed, and so did the Jackson 5, and that was actually their TV debut. Also that year, Curtis Mayfield's song, Miss Black America, was released, and it was the pageant's theme song. As the pageant became more recognized and respected in the community, the work the winners ended up doing and the prizes and all of that just got better and better. In 1970, the third year of the pageant, Stephanie Epps, an aspiring singer from Arlington, Virginia, won. Stephanie got to travel to Vietnam to entertain soldiers during a USO tour, which was perfect for her because she wanted to be a singer, and it was pretty fulfilling in general. Like, the country was just going through a really, really hard time. So Stephanie felt great that she was able to just, get in there and just make people feel better. In a 2018 interview with Mike, she said, I saw friends over there that I knew, that I went to school with. I did the best I could to encourage them. They were fighting for a country that they loved, and they wanted to come back to a world that will receive them because of what they've done and not because of their skin color. But as you know, that was what was waiting for them when they got back, end quote. We talked a little bit about this. I think Jennifer Jackson, the first Black Playboy bunny, I believe, didn't I bring that episode up last week? Anyway, there's a lot of information in that episode. That episode has a lot in it. But she said the same thing. They wanted to come back to a different kind of America, but of course we know that didn't happen. But these women who went over there or communicated with people who were overseas at that time, they did their best to encourage them. It was a big deal. As word about the competition continued to spread, many future stars participated, such as Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, I know Oprah Winfrey was a pageant girl, Bernadette Stanis, Toni Braxton, and many, many more. So 1977 was an even bigger year for the Miss Black America pageant, y'all. J. Morris Anderson consistently shopped the pageant around to TV networks over the years. He just wanted them to put it into syndication, but he never really had any luck. That year, 1977, NBC aired the competition on live television the day before CBS televised Miss America. So the initial deal was that they would sponsor the winner of the pageant and air it the same day as Miss America, kind of as a fuck you to CBS, excuse my language, but, kind of like, middle finger to CBS. I'll tell y'all why. In that 2018 article that Mike did, J. Morris Anderson said, I had some luck in the sense that year, CBS had stolen the Miss America pageant from NBC. They were really angry at CBS. They were going to air the Miss Black America pageant on the same night as the Miss America pageant, but they backed off and it was aired the night before, end quote. So basically what happened there is sometimes TV networks will bid on airing a certain show or airing a certain program, and then, it can get taken by the parent company or a bigger company or something like that. So that's basically what happened. NBC was supposed to do Miss America, but they ended up striking a deal with Miss Black America to air them and kind of steal some viewers, if you will. So it's kind of petty, but, it was good for Miss Black America. Claire Ford Hopkins from Memphis, Tennessee was the lucky winner that night. So not only was her victory aired on national TV, Cicely Tyson herself made the deciding vote that Claire would win. That's a huge deal. I know her family was ecstatic. If that was my niece or one of my, I would never shut up about that. She won on TV, and Miss Tyson was the deciding vote. Child, y'all would be sick of me. Miss Black America had partnered with NBC that year. Claire got guest appearances on Roots, The Next Generation. Huge deal. And the 70s drama Fantasy Island, in addition to doing a USO tour across Europe and Africa, similar to what Stephanie, the winner from 1970, did. Here's a condensed quote from Claire from that Mike article. There certainly was a level of excitement, a level of specialness in the air, because we were being produced by this network that provided choreographers. You could tell this was a real deal situation. I did grasp and understand the significance, even at that young age, of being among these other young and vibrant, excited, beautiful Black sisters. And we tried to do ourselves, our parents, our families, and our communities proud, end quote. So, unfortunately, NBC's leadership changed the next year and they never aired the Miss Black America pageant again. But other networks did put it into syndication, and they would usually do this for a month at a time. It would keep, getting replays and things like that. Jay actually then franchised the Miss Black America name to Black colleges around the country for local competitions, and the winners would feed directly into the national competition. So, same thing like what I mentioned earlier about those smaller Black pageants from the 1920s from way back when. It was the same idea. I think that's actually how Oprah Winfrey got into the competition. I think she won Miss Black Tennessee or something like that, and then she got to the Miss Black America competition that year. So the national pageant continued to take off from there. The prizes got better, locations got better. The 1980 pageant was actually held in Jamaica. They got sponsorships from Ford Motors, Black America Magazine, and more. But the 80s were specifically interesting for the Miss Black America competition because, as I mentioned earlier, Vanessa Williams became the first Black woman to win Miss America in 1984. A lot of Black people too, y'all, shocker, felt like there was no need for Miss Black America anymore now that Black women were competing and winning Miss America. Some even felt like Miss Black America was divisive. Amina Fakir, who won the 1985 Miss Black America pageant, said this to Mike. The thought was, we don't need to do that anymore. We just had a Black Miss America. And I'm like, okay, that's one. But in cities all around the country, young ladies get an opportunity to be in a pageant that extols the beauty of Black women, end quote. And y'all, some of y'all might be surprised by that, but I'm actually not, because I think there's a lot of Black people, and I love y'all. Y'all know I love y'all down. I got a podcast dedicated to y'all. But I think, and y'all, again, as always, feel free to disagree with me anytime I insert my opinions into these episodes. But I feel like there's actually a lot of Black people who, once we get something, once we get what we're fighting for, like that quote unquote equality, or like just being included, that's enough for some people. You know what I mean? Like, that's enough. And it's like, okay, we good. We don't need to fight the power no more. We good now because we in there. But what these people weren't realizing is that, yes, it's great that Black women are now competing and winning in the Miss America competition. It doesn't mean we have to stop uplifting our own. It's funny to hear this, but I wasn't surprised, because I do think a lot of Black people actually feel this way. But just because, you know, you get one thing, it doesn't mean we stop uplifting our own and having things for our own community. Everything ain't got to be integrated. You get what I'm saying? Like, some things are for us. They're for us, they're by us, and we should still support those things the same. On the Miss Black America website, they tell a story about a reporter who said to them, you know, we don't need this anymore. They had the same idea. Like, we don't need this anymore. We just had a Miss America. The pageant should stop. Are you going to stop the pageant? And J. Morris Anderson brought up a really good point. He's like, okay, this is a Black newspaper who asked me this. And he asked the reporter, if a white newspaper comes out that's doing the exact same thing that you're doing, should you lose your job? Should you not do it anymore? Should your newspaper just shut down? Like, think about it that way. Like, if someone came out with a podcast that talked about just beauty contributions that all women have had to pop culture, and they included a ton of Black women. It wasn't all Black women, but they included a bunch of Black women. Should I end Vixen? Like, come on now. But anyway, let's move on. The whole we don't need Miss Black America anymore thing, that was a really big deal. And a lot of Black people were talking about that across the nation. But soon after, the pageant would have bigger problems. In 1991, Miss Black America partnered with the Indiana Black Expo, and they held the pageant in Indianapolis. They then booked Mike Tyson to make a guest appearance. So, trigger warning right here for y'all. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I do want to talk a little bit about the victim here and talk about who she is and her life and her accomplishments and things like that. Please skip ahead about 60 seconds if you need to. So, trigger warning for this. The day after the competition, Mike was accused of raping pageant contestant Desiree Washington. Desiree Washington was an 18-year-old psychology major who wanted to be a politician or an attorney when she graduated. She had won Miss Black Rhode Island, a theater pageant, one of the ones we mentioned earlier, and then participated in Miss Black America that year. Desiree immediately caught Mike Tyson's eye, so much so that Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was there as a guest with Mike's, had to tell him, like, look, this isn't the place nor the time for that. He did not listen, and the following day, he invited Desiree to his room at the Canterbury Hotel. According to Hilary Levy Friedman's book, Here She Is, The Complicated Reign of the Beauty Pageant in America, Desiree was happy to be invited to hang out with Mike, as her father was a really big fan of his. So she was excited. You know, she won this pageant. She got to compete in a larger pageant, had fun, probably met like a lot of girls her age from around the country. And Mike Tyson likes her. She's getting to hang out with Mike Tyson. When she arrived at the hotel, Mike forced himself on her. Immediately after, Desiree went to the hospital and reported the rape, which then became a very high-profile case and news story. During the trial, Mike's chauffeur at the time, Virginia Foster, corroborated Desiree's story, leading to Mike being convicted and sentenced to 6 years in prison, which he only served nearly 3. Y'all already know how disgusting people are when a beloved celebrity is accused and even convicted of something heinous. They usually start to attack that person's victim. Desiree experienced a ton of backlash from the media, of course, and from Mike Tyson's fans, and this caused her a ton of mental distress. I'm not sure exactly where Desiree is today. I do know that she graduated from college. She did finish school, but I think she just lives a very low-key, quiet life now. After his conviction, Desiree was a guest on ABC 2020 with Barbara Walters. Here's a quote from her from that interview. I went from being such an outgoing person to someone who was just I was voted friendliest in high school to just so secluded. I just sat in my room and in the corner of my bed, and I just couldn't move for the longest time. I couldn't believe it. I was just such an outgoing person, such a loving person, such a trusting person, and I miss that person. But in a way, it's good that I'm not that person because now I won't be hurt again like it was. End quote. That broke my heart. I started to watch her entire interview. with Barbara Walters, but I couldn't. Um, like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time on that, so let me keep going. The unfortunate incident left that year's winner, former WWE wrestler and professional dancer Sharmell Sullivan Huffman, to pick up the pieces of Miss Black America's reputation in the media. So in interviews, she often was questioned about what happened. Like, people would just try to get her take on it, what she thought. They would basically treat her as a representative, which she was because she was that year's pageant winner, but they kind of like blamed her and like just, wanted her to speak on something that she wasn't there for and probably wasn't well equipped to speak on. Here's what she said in an interview. If I were on a talk show or something of that nature, then that subject would always come up. There was really not much that I could say because I was nowhere near anything that happened. That wasn't good for the pageant, even though the pageant had done nothing wrong in terms of this happening. Then I had sued Mike Tyson and Don King, so this was a setback for the pageant, end quote. So I couldn't find out why Sharmell sued Mike and Don King. I don't know if it was like from distress for like sullying her experience as the reigning Miss Black America that year. I couldn't find out what happened, y'all. I don't know. But this seriously impacted the pageant's rep. It was just a big topic of conversation in Black media and white media. Y'all already know, like, white people love to jump on stuff like that. Racist white people love to jump on stuff like that when things like this happen. And a lot of people just felt like they should have controlled their contestants better, which is a really interesting take because it's like none of the contestants were the aggressor here. It was Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? It wasn't the girls who competed in the pageant. Like, they're like, you guys should make them have curfew or like make sure they're in their rooms. A lot of these women are grown. I think you had to be 18 to compete at least, and a lot of them, they were young. Of course, they were young. I'm not taking it away. Like, she was only 18 when this happened, Desiree. But they can't hold women hostage in their rooms. And like, we got to put the onus on the men who do stuff like this. We got to put the onus on the men and the women who do stuff like this, not the victims or anybody like that. So it really messed up their reputation. And because of all the backlash, the pageant went on hiatus for over a decade. Miss Black America did not return until 2009. It's a very long time. Alita Lewis, one of J. Morris Anderson's daughters, had taken over as executive producer, and she was focused on rebuilding the pageant's image. Under her direction, the organization focused on initiatives that will help the Black community, such as youth programming, community reach out, and an annual roundtable discussion on different topics that affect the Black community. I believe in 2018, they talked about just like mass incarceration and how it affects Black people. So they've made it, it's still the same type of pageant, but they've focused it more on the community issues that face us. So it's just a different experience now. Here's a quote from Alita from that Mike article. When you're a part of an all-Black institution, you can be unapologetically Black about Black issues and the Black experience. I think that's why the organization is just as relevant in 2018 as it was in 1968, because we're still fighting these same battles, end quote. So the pageant is still going strong today, y'all. You can actually go on the website and register. I think you have to be 18 to 29. I got like 1 year less. But now y'all can go and register and compete. I'm sure it's an amazing experience. I did read that attendance has been quite low in recent years. Why do y'all think that is? Like, why do y'all think attendance has been lower? Like, have pageants become less important to the community? Is it a COVID thing? Well, it was low even before COVID. Like, is it worse because of COVID? Like, what's going on in the Black pageant world? This is not a world that I know much about. Like, I'm doing all my research now and learning so much and really just enjoying it. But if there's any Black pageant girls who listen to the podcast or follow me, send some photos in. Let's talk about it. I want to see your photos so I can post them on my story. And let's talk about it. Let's talk like what if you're in the pageant world now, like what is it like for you as a Black woman? Are you competing in Black pageants specifically? Do you want to do Miss Black America? Have you participated in Miss Black America before? Because that could possibly be a thing. Maybe people are moving towards the white pageants now and like competing in other things, because pageant world is alive and well, okay? Like from what I've seen of the competition out there, and there's a ton more Black women. It's still probably over 50% white, but anyway, there's a ton more Black women that are participating. So pageant girls, give us some answers, okay? Are y'all leaning more towards like the integrated competitions where everybody's competing, or are y'all still down for the Black ones? Like, what's going on? I want to talk about that. So it's not doing as well as it was. It definitely had its heyday in the 70s and 80s. But I love that it's still going on today. Lovely that Jay Morris Anderson's daughter, is just keeping it on. He's still alive and very active with the competition and the organization, of course. But his daughter is really, really just like updating it and giving it like a facelift that's relevant for the times now. I know there was some backlash about them still doing a swimsuit competition because I believe Miss America doesn't do that anymore. They cut it out a while ago, I believe. But, Miss Black America still does it, still marching to the beat of their own drum. What do y'all think about Black pageants in general? And this is for Black pageant girls and people who have never done pageants. Just as Black women, what do you guys think about pageants in general? Do you think they're harmful? Do you think like they're fun? And how do you feel like they relate to feminism in general? I mean, I see why people go one way with it, as in it's oppressive to women and it's everything we hate, and it makes people feed into unhealthy beauty standards. But I also feel like feminism can also be doing what the hell you want. It can be getting up there in a swimsuit. It can be anything you want it to be. So I think feminism is also women deciding to participate in pageants and continue on in things like this. So I want to know what y'all think. Let me know if y'all liked this episode. I'm excited for part 2. Y'all will get part 2 next Wednesday. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to make sure I post some good pictures from the Miss Black America competition. So check those out on Instagram if you haven't already. And yeah, I will see y'all next week for part 2 of the Black Beauty Pageant series. I hope y'all like this one. See y'all next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to Vixen. If you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a review. If you have a submission, feel free to email VIXENPODCAST@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with an all-new episode.